Yesterday's tragic fire at a local homeless encampment has left one person dead. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We now know that one person died in Wednesday's early morning fire at a Southside encampment.
The Office of the Ontario Fire Marshal says the blaze at Cam River Park also left 2 people injured. Vasilios Bellos is following the story. Vasilios, what do we know now about the fire?
Ryan, the incident is still under investigation, and the cause of the fire hasn't yet been determined. The area was still blocked off this afternoon, with devastating damage seen on a number of items at the site. One person is dead, and 2 have been sent to hospital with unknown injuries after a tent fire at a homeless encampment on Wednesday. Emergency crews responded to the blaze at Cam River Park around 4 a.m., finding the tent already fully engulfed in flames. Fire rescue initially sent out a media release only saying that 2 people were sent to hospital, but the Office of the Ontario Fire Marshal confirmed a death on Thursday. A pop-up tent has been set up at the site during the investigation, with significant fire damage obvious on a number of items by the scene, including chairs and what appears to be someone's belongings. A representative from the fire marshal's office was there, while Thunder Bay Police held the scene. There's still no word on what started the deadly fire or if any charges will be laid. Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
A Long Lake 58 First Nation woman who's been missing for more than 2 weeks has been found dead in that community. The family of Adrienne Toagijig had been searching for her in Thunder Bay, believing that she was here. But Greenstone OPP announced late last night that a body found in Long Lake 58 on Sunday evening had now been positively identified as that of the missing 35-year-old. Toagijig hadn't been seen since January 10th. OPP continued to investigate the circumstances of her death alongside the Ontario Coroner's Office and Forensic Pathology Service. Anyone with information about the case is asked to contact Greenstone OPP or Crime Stoppers.
It's now day 2 of the Ontario election campaign.
The 4 major party leaders have been on the road today as they continue to make their pitches to voters. As CTV's Siobhan Morris tells us, today was also the first day people can vote in person at their local election office.
With the possibility of U.S. tariffs now hours away and President Donald Trump determined to assemble more cars in America,
there's a bullet aimed straight at the heart of our auto sector.
An industry provincial and federal governments have pumped tens of billions of dollars into incentives to build electric vehicle battery plants in Ontario, with competition from American tax credits, a program Trump has threatened to end.
No matter what decision the U.S. makes about the Inflation Reduction Act, we will maintain our financial contributions to the electric vehicle and battery auto pack.
Ford expects the next prime minister to do the same. In Mississauga, a flurry of activity at Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie's campaign office. Hello. Running for a seat at Queen's Park for the first time.
It feels so good to put my name on a ballot once again so that I can represent you, hopefully as the next premier of this province, right?
Crombie is concerned about the future of Ontario's auto sector.
The premier has put all our eggs in the EV basket, has not tried to diversify our economy, insulate us in any way, brought different kinds of investment.
Unveiling her campaign bus, the NDP's Marit Stiles says she supports the EV sector, but isn't sure existing agreements make sense.
I mean, as we've seen, Doug Ford does not make good deals for Ontario generally, and I'm going to be looking very carefully at the details of the deals that he's struck with those folks.
In the afternoon, private sector union LiUNA endorsed Doug Ford at a training facility in Vaughan.
A re-elected PC government will invest another billion, that's with a B, $1 billion in our skills development fund.
Stiles sees value in the facilities that receive that funding.
They're helping to train the next generation of skilled trade workers. They know I'm on their side. The NDP will continue to be there for them.
Do you know Bronwyn, who's our local candidate here?
Green Party leader Mike Schreiner spent time making connections in Fergus and Georgetown with the candidate for Wellington Halton Hills.
That was CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting. Poplar Hill First Nation is now connected to the provincial power grid.
It brings not only light, but relief as well for families of those who rely on electricity for survival. Justin Hardy has the story.
We worry constantly because of what our child is going through.
Maria Child Forever says she's eternally grateful for the reliable energy now in her home due to her community's connection to the Watay-Niconia power transmission system. Child Forever's young son is medically reliant on stable energy, and this new connection brings peace of mind for her whole family.
He has machines that he's connected with, oxygen for 24/7. And when the power goes out, it only lasts 2 hours for the oxygen tank. And the CPAP machine, it only lasts 6 hours for the battery.
Child Forever adds that the family is still keeping a small emergency generator ready should a storm knock out the power line, but it's still much more reliable than the community's old diesel generators. Other members of the community are also thrilled with the new connection, according to Chief Alvin Owen.
Oh, yeah, I heard there a lot of people are excited, when we had that power got turned on, because sometimes they had problem with we had problem with our generators.
The 1,800-kilometer power transmission system will ultimately connect 17 remote communities to provincial power. Watay CEO Margaret Kanekwanach says it's been a long road to travel, but the results are worth it.
With Watay-Niconia, I've been along with other projects. It's about 34 years in total, and finally reaching that milestone and an accomplishment to bring reliable energy into the north. It's a major milestone for our people.
Communities have invested in themselves with this project. They own it to a certain degree till the time management is up, and then the power will eventually be in their hands.
All Watay-Niconia community assets are energized, with all but 3 fully connected to the Ontario power grid. The remaining communities are expected to be brought online in the coming months. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The Thunder Bay Police Service Board's Governance Committee has 2 new appointees. Gary Ferguson and Marcel Donio will fill the roles left vacant last fall. Gary Ferguson currently serves as the Executive Director of the Salvation Army's Journey to Life Centre. He also has several years of experience in acute care, addictions intervention, long-term care, and adult education. As for Marcel Donio, he spent his career working in various levels of government. He was appointed as a Justice of the Peace and remained in that role for nearly 2 decades.
In order to modernize Thunder Bay's transit system, new fare boxes and an electronic payment system are coming to city buses.
Passengers can still use their traditional paper ticket, monthly pass, or cash, but a new reloadable card will also be an option. Jaden Billick explains.
Starting soon, city bus passengers will notice a modernized experience. New completely digital fare boxes will be gradually added to buses, making it easier for operators issuing transfers directly, as the traditional papers are punched with only a 90-minute window. Supervisor of Customer Care and Administrative Services, Laura Daniels, talks about the convenience.
As the implementation proceeds, we will be introducing an electronic tap card with an electronic tap system, which will provide riders with convenient, accessible payment options, as well as enhancing then the overall rider experience. The project is part of the city's digital strategy project, which is where we are committed to continually bring more services online.
Daniels also says the tap card will be introduced to customers throughout the year in phases, beginning in the spring, and will be reloadable online, at the Thunder Bay Transit office, and select vendors around town. These cards are very common amongst other agencies, and future announcements will be made over the next few months.
The outcome of all of this work stems from public input that's been collected over the years and was factored into recommendations that were made and included as part of, as far back as the city's transportation master plan. And there's a lot of work and effort going into transforming transit as a whole. This is one of the initial steps of that, and people can expect to see more good things.
In the coming weeks, transportation officials will be looking for volunteering customers to take part in an early test group where they will receive a tap card ahead of the tentative full launch date in the spring. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
Lakehead School Board officials are raising concerns over the level of special education transportation funding coming from the province. They say the current money available simply isn't enough, making it a challenge to provide equal access to education. The main issues come with the geographic area served by the board, which includes rural areas, adding challenges that Southern Ontario schools don't face. Chair Leah Vanderway says they've been forced to rely on taxis for student transportation, as the current funding for their special education students was only about 10% of what's needed.
So those students, those 86 students, generated about $43,000 in funding for special education transportation. However, it cost us approximately $425,000 to transport them to school that year. So we're looking at approximately a $380,000 budget. So those are the concerns that we're looking at, because we're always focused on equity for our students. So we need them to have the same access to quality education that students across the province have.
Vanderway says there needs to be a conversation with the province soon, as the benchmark funding was established in 2018. Since then, inflation has risen by about 20%, and the cost of a school bus went up by 50%.
The 2024 Parade of Lights was another roaring success. Organizers announced today the 25th edition of the event raised just over $50,000 for 4 local charities, about $5,000 more than the year prior. Those organizations are Autism Ontario, George Jeffrey Children's Foundation, Special Olympics Thunder Bay, and the Thunder Bay Therapeutic Riding Association. The community came out strong for the holiday tradition, with around 150 vehicles participating in the parade. Parade Chair Greg Stevenson continues to be amazed by the generosity of the community.
Did some online donations, but we always have our diligent parade walkers out banging on doors if people are in their cars, or going to people and asking them to clean out their pockets and donate whatever they can. And because of those efforts and the efforts of companies coming forward, we were able to raise that amount.
Well, we have about 400 athletes in our group right now, and they depend entirely on the support we get from our community partners in order for them to do what they do. And because of Special Olympics, they get to enjoy the benefits of sport.
Organizers also credit the Thunder Bay Police Association for their ongoing support.
All right, let's turn our attention to the weather now, Fiona. A little bit of snow to start off the day, but all in all, it was a nice one out there with really warm temperatures.
Yeah, just enough snow that you had to pull out the shovels, but it wasn't going to take a long time. It was lightweight. It wasn't that heavy, wet stuff that makes all of us so miserable. Despite the fact that it wasn't wet snow, we still warmed up to a high of 0 today. After the snow cleared out and after we got through that early morning low of -12 and wind chills of -14, we warmed up all the way to the goose egg, and then we had a little bit of sunshine peeking through. There we go. Peeking through the clouds in the city of Thunder Bay. Now, in other parts of the region, there was a little bit of snow throughout the day up towards Red Lake. They were dealing with flurries most of the day as we head north of Lake Superior. There were a couple of brief periods of snow, but not much. The majority of it was in the morning in the Sioux area and in Wawa, and it's already started to move out. So, temperature-wise, well, it was a fairly mild night in Red Lake, but they have warmed up to -7 earlier today, -8 at this hour, wind chills of -13. Ironically, it was actually a little cooler in Fort Frances overnight, but they kicked everybody's butt today. They topped out with a high of 3, currently sitting at 1 Celsius. Now, as we head into Greenstone, it is a little bit cooler than Thunder Bay and areas west, but still well within seasonal range, we'll say. -8 in Greenstone and Armstrong, and wind chills are minimal. Along the eastern shores, close to the freezing mark for much of the day. In fact, Sault Ste. Marie topped out with a high of 1. They are currently back below at -2 and wind chills of -6 under mostly cloudy skies. Here in the city of Thunder Bay, we will drop down to a low of -10, but the winds are going to be so light, up to maybe 5 kilometers an hour, and variable. When they're that low, they're actually very hard to measure which direction they're coming from. So we'll just call them variable winds at 5K. There's a minuscule slight chance of flurries this evening, otherwise mainly cloudy in the overnight hours. And as we plan for the weekend ahead, unfortunately, temperatures are going to take a slight hit after a daytime high of 0. I mean, you've got basically nowhere to go but colder at this time of year. So it will be a little bit cooler, but still at or above seasonal temperatures. And also, there is going to be a little bit more snow on the way by mid-weekend, but it'll also be a much warmer Sunday. So we're getting the good with the bad, and I think we're going to have perfect weather for folks who like to really get out and enjoy this time of year with the outdoor sports, whether they're skiing, snowboarding, tobogganing, or snowmobiling, whatever your fancy is. I think this is going to be a perfect weekend to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, great conditions. We certainly have the snow for it now, and those temperatures not too bad either. Thanks a lot, Fiona.
Thank you.
All right, well, it is the worst air disaster in the U.S. in a generation. 67 people are presumed dead after a mid-air crash near Washington, D.C. We'll have full details on that right after the break.
At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.